A deep dive into Genesis 6:1 and its implications for Christians. The book of Genesis stands as the foundational narrative of the Judeo-Christian faith, weaving tales of creation, morality, and divine interaction. Among its gripping stories, Genesis 6:1 provides a profound exploration of the wickedness of man and the ensuing judgment of God. This pivotal passage holds timeless lessons for Christians, offering insights into the complexities of human nature, the consequences of moral decline, and the divine response to unbridled wickedness. Genesis 6:1 opens with a seemingly innocuous observation. When human beings began to increase in number on the earth, and daughters were born to them. The narrative starts by acknowledging the growth of the human population, emphasizing the inherent dynamism and diversity of life. However, this apparent tranquility is swiftly disrupted as the passage unfolds, revealing a darker undercurrent of moral decay and spiritual corruption. The verse continues, "The sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose." This mysterious reference to the sons of God has generated considerable theological debate. Scholars offer various interpretations suggesting these beings could be fallen angels, divine entities, or even the righteous descendants of Seth. Regardless of the interpretive lens, the central theme remains constant: the crossing of boundaries and the mingling of the divine with the earthly. Genesis 6:1 and the descent into wickedness. As the narrative progresses, Genesis 6:1 unfolds a series of events that signal a descent into moral chaos. The sons of God take wives from the daughters of humans, a union that symbolizes a fundamental breach of divine order. This mingling of the heavenly and the earthly reflects an audacious defiance of established boundaries, leading to the erosion of moral standards and the proliferation of ungodly practices. The consequences of these unholy unions are outlined in the subsequent verses. Genesis 6:5 paints a bleak picture of the human condition. "The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time." This sweeping indictment reflects the pervasive and unrestrained nature of human wickedness. It portrays a society consumed by corruption, where every facet of human thought is tainted by evil. Divine response and the announcement of judgment. In response to the escalating wickedness, Genesis 6:6-7 depicts the profound reaction of God. "The Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. So the Lord said, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals, the birds, and the creatures that move along the ground. For I regret that I have made them." This expression of divine regret is not indicative of a change in God's character, but serves as a powerful anthropomorphism, emphasizing the depth of God's sorrow over the state of humanity. The impending judgment, symbolized by the Great Flood, becomes a stark manifestation of divine justice and a necessary intervention to cleanse the world of its moral impurity. Noah and the Ark. Righteousness in the midst of wickedness. In the midst of the impending judgment, Genesis 6:8 introduces a ray of hope. "But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord." Noah, described as a righteous man in his generation, stands in stark contrast to the prevailing wickedness. God instructs Noah to build an ark, providing specific dimensions and details for the preservation of Noah, his family, and a remnant of the animal kingdom. Noah's obedience and righteousness in the face of widespread corruption highlight the possibility of maintaining moral integrity, even in the most challenging circumstances. His commitment to God's commands becomes a beacon of light in a world engulfed by darkness, emphasizing the importance of faithfulness and obedience as a response to divine guidance. The Great Flood as divine judgment. Genesis 7 details the unfolding of the Great Flood, a cataclysmic event that reshapes the world and signifies the culmination of divine judgment. The floodwaters cover the earth for 40 days and nights, eradicating all life outside the ark. This dramatic act of divine intervention serves as a powerful illustration of the consequences of unrepentant sin and the severity of God's response to moral corruption. The flood narrative is not merely a historical account, but carries symbolic significance. It underscores the universality of sin's impact and the necessity of divine judgment to rectify a fallen world. In the midst of the floodwaters, the ark becomes a symbol of salvation and deliverance, echoing themes of redemption and renewal that resonate throughout biblical theology. Lessons for Christians from Genesis 6:1. 1. Recognition of human fallenness. Genesis 6:1 serves as a stark reminder of the inherent fallenness of humanity. The narrative unfolds a trajectory from the multiplication of people to a pervasive wickedness that engulfs every facet of human thought. For Christians, This recognition of human fallenness becomes a foundational understanding, shaping the theological lens through which they view themselves and the world. 2. Boundaries and holiness. The mingling of the sons of God with the daughters of humans emphasizes the importance of maintaining spiritual boundaries and upholding holiness. Christians are called to live distinctively, avoiding compromise with worldly values and resisting the allure of sinful practices. The narrative challenges believers to reflect on the sanctity of their relationships and the need to uphold moral standards in a world prone to moral relativism. The consequences of unchecked wickedness. The progression from the initial mingling of heavenly and earthly beings to the all-encompassing wickedness described in Genesis 6:5 underscores the dire consequences of unchecked sin. Christians are prompted to reflect on the societal implications of moral decline and the responsibility to stand against prevailing wickedness. The narrative encourages believers to be agents of positive change, seeking to impact the world with the transformative power of the gospel. 4. Divine sorrow and judgment. The expression of God's regret and sorrow over the state of humanity highlights the profound relational aspect of the divine-human dynamic. Christians are invited to understand the depth of God's compassion and the seriousness with which God views sin. The impending judgment becomes a sobering reminder of the consequences of unrepentant sin, prompting believers to cultivate a repentant heart and a desire for righteousness. 5. Noah's righteousness and obedience. The character of Noah becomes a compelling example of righteousness and obedience in the face of prevailing wickedness. Christians are called to emulate Noah's commitment to God's commands, even when surrounded by moral decay. The narrative encourages believers to be instruments of righteousness, standing firm in their faith and obedience to God's word, in a world that may reject or oppose such values. Theological themes of salvation and renewal. The Great Flood, as a symbol of divine judgment, carries theological themes of salvation and renewal. Christians find resonance in the ark as a symbol of salvation, prefiguring the redemptive work of Christ. The narrative invites believers to reflect on the transformative power of God's grace, recognizing that even in the midst of judgment, God provides a way of escape and offers the possibility of renewal. 7. Covenant and God's faithfulness. The establishment of the covenant with Noah following the flood underscores God's faithfulness despite human unfaithfulness. Christians draw parallels between the Noahic covenant and the new covenant established through Christ. The narrative encourages believers to trust in God's faithfulness, even in the face of human failure, and to embrace the redemptive promises inherent in God's covenantal relationship with His people. Conclusion. Genesis 6:1 stands as a testament to the timeless truths embedded in the biblical narrative. The exploration of human wickedness and divine judgment provides Christians with a rich tapestry of theological insights, inviting reflection on the complexities of human nature, the consequences of moral decline, and the redemptive promise of God. As Christians engage with Genesis 6:1, they are challenged to recognize the fallenness of humanity, uphold spiritual boundaries, and stand against prevailing wickedness. The narrative serves as a call to righteousness and obedience, drawing attention to the transformative power of God's grace in the face of impending judgment. The character of Noah becomes an inspirational model of faithfulness in the midst of moral decay, pointing believers towards the possibility of living a righteous and obedient life, even in challenging circumstances. Ultimately, the Great Flood and the subsequent covenant with Noah echo themes of salvation, renewal, and God's unwavering faithfulness. Christians find in Genesis 6:1 not only a historical account, but a profound reservoir of theological truths that continue to shape their understanding of the human condition and God's redemptive plan. The lessons drawn from this ancient narrative resonate across generations, offering guidance and inspiration for believers navigating the complexities of a fallen world.